You can hate me all you want. You can hate the truth I'm going to hit you with. You can hate the messenger because you know what? You're getting mad at me because you don't want to hear what I got to say because you live in some fantasy world. But it is obvious after today's Activision releasing their information, their stats, and why they have skill-based matchmaking in the game, it is obvious that Call of Duty is better with skill-based matchmaking for 99% of us. The 1% that it would actually be detrimental to, well, fuck those guys. Those are a bunch of TTV sliding canceling sweaty-ass nerds that you see out here who think they're fucking JWO and Zlanner and all those dorks, and even people like Blame Geico LED peddling retard helmet, Truth himself, fake-ass guy, or even News Cinema, or Exclusive Ace, Mr. Stat Guy, and J-God, all those guys are the tiny minority, and what you see online is not an accurate representation of the actual Call of Duty community. And skill-based matchmaking is actually good for Call of Duty for almost everybody watching this video. You're going to get mad about it. You're going to try to, all these other guys are going to try to placate and try to suck up to you and try to tell you tell you what you want to hear. They're going to try to make you feel good, but they're not going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. It's really obvious. I've been saying it for the longest time. We'll get into it, but Activision has explained why Call of Duty has skill-based matchmaking and why it's there and why it's actually good. And it's common sense. You can say they're lying. Before we go any further, I'll just say this, that debunks any kind of rebuttal that you may have of why skill-based matchmaking sucks. First of all, this is actually something else I thought of before I actually get to the rebuttal, which is just common sense, which I've been saying for the longest time now, since I stopped being some kind of idiot who's just hating blindly on Call of Duty because it gets you views. No, I'm just going to be honest. If it deserves to be hated, I'll say it. But you're going to get what's real from me from now on. But one thing I will say is that I said this a million times too, before it even dropped, with XDefiant, and I told everybody I made videos about it, I said XDefiant is going to prove that skill-based matchmaking is not the problem with online first-person shooters. It is just the amount of people and the people playing it and how sweaty everybody is and how good everybody is at a first-person shooter now. It's not the skill-based matchmaking that's fucking you. It is just the player base. And you're getting them confused. My point is like, you can't tell the difference between XDefiant with all the skill-based matchmaking it's not supposed to have and the gameplay that I get when I play Call of Duty now. It's pretty much the same thing. Point to disprove anyone who's like, skill-based matchmaking sucks. The point of Activision, Microsoft, whatever, is to make as much money as they can from their video games. They would not put anything into a video game that would be counterintuitive to that, would be the nemesis of that. According to all their stats here, in this, have run tests, have gone through all the numbers. And they would look at that because they have all the data. But people are, they're lying. Like, no, they're not. The point is this, long story short. If skill-based matchmaking was detrimental to their game, they wouldn't have it in it because it would make them lose money. Skill-based matchmaking is not detrimental to their game. In fact, it is a positive, and actually is a positive for almost all of us playing it. Regardless if you want to believe that or not, you can sit here and lie to yourself and make yourself feel better. But it is what it is. So let me get into this real quick. Going forward, though, if you are sitting here playing Call of Duty and you want to keep crying about skill-based matchmaking or EOMM or whatever the fuck you think is happening, which isn't happening, it's a bunch of conspiracy nonsense. I've been playing Call of Duty forever. It's all a bunch of people lying to you, tricking you people watching the video into thinking something's there, making it worse than it is. Listen, nothing gets more views than negative press. Nothing gets more views than talking crap about something and being negative about it, conspiratorial about it, and then trying to find some kind of conclusions that aren't really there to make everybody else get on your team. That's a playbook for everybody who does any kind of news or reporting or any video games or anything like that. Trust me, I've been there. I've manipulated you all before. These guys are all manipulating you. I'm not doing that anymore because it's disgusting. Anyways, Activision explains why skill-based matchmaking remains in Call of Duty. Call of Duty team looks at calculating skill in multiplayer based exclusively on match performance and player progression or total time spent playing the games are not factored into skill. The skill factor rating of each player changes over time and the skill rating is compared to every player in match. Activision keeps skill factor in matchmaking despite the negative feedback because when skill is utilized in matchmaking, 89% of players experience better of end match placement, stick with the game longer, and quit matches less frequently. That is just a fact that they know. If they had no skill-based matchmaking and they had better outcomes where their people played the game more, people didn't quit as much, their time in the game was less or more, depending upon skill-based matchmaking or not, they would change it. It doesn't make any sense otherwise of a company to do that. They have a fiduciary obligation to do whatever they can to maximize profits. And how do you maximize profits? Get people to play the game longer and get people to stay in the game longer, quit less, and enjoy it more so they're more inclined to spend money on microtransactions and future games. It's over. You don't like skill-based matchmaking? Well, I'm telling you right now, you would like it less if there was no skill-based matchmaking. They would not lie. Why would they lie? Why would they lie to you? Why would they be like, you know what, actually skill-based matchmaking is detrimental to our game, but you know what, we like to shoot ourselves in the foot and we're going to try to hurt our own game and hurt our own profits, break the law, screw our shareholders, and completely just, you know what, yeah, like, no. Stop it. You guys got to stop with the cap. You got to stop with the nonsense. The paper explains that while the top 10 to 20% may experience some negative effects, completely removing skill from the system would result in two issues. Low and mid-skilled players would quit faster, leading to matchmaking pool mainly composed of higher skilled players. This would result in consistently more competitive matches for all players instead of a better team balance. What they're saying is this: without skill-based matchmaking, this is what happens. The good players, the really good players, beat the crap out of all the noobs, all the bad players. All those bad players are middle or not just regular players. They get discouraged. They think, this is not fun. I'm quitting. I'm dropping out. Now, all you have is a bunch of really, really good players playing against each other all the time and completely just getting bored of the game and quitting as well because it becomes way too competitive as far as that goes. The white paper revealed that Activision has run tests in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer where skill factor was reduced in matchmaking for a portion of the player base. According to the paper, 50% of North American Modern Warfare 3 were part of the multiplayer test that reduced skill factor earlier this year. The test showed that players with a wider skill gap were more likely to quit matches in progress and did not return to the game at a higher rate than the players with unchanged matchmaking, said Activision. Paper reveals that player retention amongst those in lower and mid-skill brackets reduced by over 1% point, with deprioritization skill returning player rate was down significantly for 90% of players. So once again, the vast majority of people, skill-based matchmaking is good for. And the paper states that although higher skilled players' retention may have been increased during the test, the lower and middle skilled players drop off over time. The higher skilled players base takes over matchmaking. The company claims that it would expect to see the player population erode rapidly in the span of a few months, resulting in a negative outcome for all players. This is exactly what is happening with XDefiant right now. Okay? It's exactly what is happening with XDefiant. You get rid of skill-based matchmaking, and then all these guys who are really good just pub stomp the shit out of all the bad players. And what happens? All the bad players get, they don't want to try to get better. It doesn't matter. We're not living in the past. We're living in the present. It doesn't matter what your perception of these people. Oh, they're quitters. In the back in the day, used to try to get better. That doesn't matter. So all these guys, they get their ass kicked. And they're like, I'm out. And they don't come back. They have the stats. They can tell how long you're in the game or log in the game or not in the game. Same with YouTube, right? How long you watch videos for, what videos you're not watching. It's all algorithm based. They can tell. And they're like, we're out. And then all the bad players are gone. And then only people it starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And it gets tighter and tighter and tighter because all the good players start to just beat up all the bad players. And they just get the gaming pool, the player base pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And obviously connections can get worse and worse and worse because the player base is smaller and smaller. And then at the end of the day, it has a negative outcome for all because only thing left in the game are a bunch of super sweats. And it just becomes even more sweaty. More sweaty in a matter of months. So like I said, for a few months, it's great. But then it just starts to turn to hell because all the good players are only thing left, and it becomes tighter and tighter of a player pool of just more elite players, and then the people who have just had enough, and then it just ends up being nothing, and then the game just dwindles away. And that's exactly what's happening with XDefiant. It's getting sweatier and sweatier as time goes on because there's no skill-based matchmaking, and it doesn't matter your perception of people, like, oh, people are just too easy to give up nowadays, or whatever nonsense you want to make an excuse for. The excuses doesn't matter. The facts are here, and it's getting sweatier and sweatier, and it's just not as becoming as much fun, and it's not just skill-based matchmaking or not. It's actually getting worse now in XDefiant. In this paper, Activision explained that reduced skill factor would represent a marginal performance increase for the highly skilled players, but would only be a short-term game. Exactly. The highest skilled players are likely to get more matches where they could blow out the competition in the short term, but when that occurs, the competition tends to play less, and the result is that the player pool shrinks overall. Like I said, you push at all the bad players, and then the pool base just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and the only thing left are a bunch of Zlanner-type fucking try-hard super duper sweats. And the company claimed that when low and mid-skill players exit the core multi-pool player, high-skill players are more likely to encounter, like I said, other high-skill players in matchmaking by default. The white paper also revealed that ping remains even across the different skill pools in matchmaking, reiterating several times that ping remains the most important factor in the Call of Duty's matchup process. However, There may be slight deviations in ping and skill groups based on the availability of players during a certain matchmaking time. Activision said a healthy player population is good for everyone in the community and promised to release another white paper to how skill factors into rank plays. Don't give a fuck about rank play. You guys are a bunch of nerds playing that. My points and how I've been saying and what I've been saying for the longest time are 100% accurate to what we're dealing with right now. Obviously, end of the story, skill-based matchmaking is better for everybody. People play the game more, they play the game longer than if they didn't have it. And at the end of the day, it is a positive, not a negative, because if it was a negative, they wouldn't have it because they want to make money and get the most amount of people playing the game. Anybody who says, oh, they're lying or whatever, why would they lie? They wouldn't put something detrimental in the game. At this point, they have so much data points, they have a fiduciary obligation to do what they can to make it the best they can to make the most money they can. They would not do anything opposite of that when it comes to skill-based matchmaking, okay? There is no incentive to make the game worse. There is incentives to hire people based upon other nationalities and stuff that may not be as qualified. That's not a story because those people get bonuses and whatnot from their respected Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street type things. That's a whole nother story. We're talking about actually just the game itself, which has nothing to do with anybody's nationality, gender, sexuality, anything like that. It is just a numbers game. The numbers aren't going to lie to them. They're not going to deceive them. They're doing what's best for the game. You can believe that if you want. You can say I'm lying. You can say I'm a cod shill, but you're just a fucking idiot. That's a fact.